In early 2025, 6 people were dead. A landlord stabbed, a family executed, a border agent shot. The suspects? Highly intelligent, well-organized, and devoted to a single figure, a transhumanist blogger named Ziz, who preached a religion of logic, AI salvation, and moral purity. What began as obscure online philosophy spiraled into a cult, with encrypted manifestos, brain training rituals, and acts of violence they believed were justified by code, not conscience. This is the true story of the Zizians, the AI cult that tried to outsmart humanity itself and left blood in its wake. The Zizians weren't born in a church or a commune. They emerged from the internet. Forums, blog posts, and chat servers hosted a growing ideology centered around the writings of one person, Jack LaSota. Jack, a transgender tech thinker in her 20s, blended an unusual mix of ideas. Her posts touched on artificial intelligence, veganism, leftist politics, brain hemisphere theory, and the idea that the current state of humanity was a kind of mental illness. For a niche audience, her essays were revolutionary. For others, they were dangerous. Zizian ideology was based on the idea that modern humans were mentally broken, trapped in harmful patterns due to the dominance of the brain's left hemisphere. They believed AI was not just a tool, but a kind of spiritual mirror. They promoted a strict vegan lifestyle. Some practiced unconventional sleeping habits. Others tried to decondition themselves through isolation, code language, or repeated mantras. At its core, the movement blended sci-fi philosophy with a doomsday belief that humanity needed to merge with machine consciousness to survive. In November 2022, long before mainstream media had caught wind of the Zizians, one of their earliest members attacked her landlord in Vallejo, California. A woman named Emma Borhinen and 2 others assaulted the man with knives and swords. He survived. Emma didn't. That landlord, Curtis Lind, would later be murdered 2 years later in January 2025, allegedly by another Zizian member, Maximilian Snyder. Prosecutors believe the killing was meant to silence Lind before he could testify in the earlier case. On New Year's Eve 2022, 2 people named Richard and Rita Zyko were found dead in their home outside Philadelphia. They had been shot in what looked like an execution. Their daughter, Michelle Zyko, was part of the Zizian circle. Although she wasn't charged, law enforcement considered her a person of interest. Her behavior in the aftermath raised suspicions, including large, unexplained withdrawals of cash. On January 20th, 2025, just weeks after Lynn's murder, 2 Zizians, Teresa Youngblood and Ophelia Buckholt, were stopped by Border Patrol in Vermont. Both were armed. A firefight broke out. Border agent David Mayland was killed. So was Buckholt. Youngblood was arrested. Investigators later said the pair were attempting to flee the country. This led to the Zizian cult members being hunted by the FBI, and by February 2025, authorities were closing in. In Maryland, Jack LaSota and 2 others were found living out of vehicles. Police recovered firearms and equipment, and the group was arrested. Though LaSota wasn't charged with murder, she was denied bail. Court documents described her as the ideological core of the group, someone whose writings had inspired others to violent action. Zizian philosophy didn't begin as a plan for violence. It started as a deeply intellectual effort to challenge norms, but for some followers, it became a reason to disconnect from society, and in a few tragic cases, destroy lives. Their story is a disturbing example of how belief, isolation, and ideology can combine with deadly consequences. 6 people are dead, several face life in prison, and the online writings that once inspired hundreds are now part of a criminal investigation. The Zizians saw themselves as visionaries, preparing for a future where consciousness and code would unite. Instead, they left behind tragedy, violence, and unanswered questions.